Excellent. All right. Well, here we are up to our main event. I was going to say this is where I kick back, sit back, relax, have a glass of wine and whatever, but this one's a little bit more conversational, and it's my pleasure to welcome in today Roy Carter. So I met Roy many years ago. As I said, it was probably around 2010, 2011, possibly around that time, and met him at an event called the World Internet Summit. And I know that Fred's actually spoken at a number of World Internet Summits as well in his area, in online marketing. So just a wee bit of background about Roy. He used to be a corporate guy. He was in the rat race in the UK. Had an HR company, so he moved from corporate into running his own business. I'm not sure whether that turned out any better, or whether there was any less stress doing that. I suspect there's probably a lot more stress when you run your own business. And sometimes running your own business feels like, you've just bought yourself a job, and it hasn't really given you the freedoms that business is supposed to provide. So he's a coach, an author, international speaker. He's a mentor. He's spoken a number of occasions on the World Internet Summit. And he's got a wealth of knowledge in business marketing, coaching, and mentoring, both online and offline. So he's been in the corporate and small business world, and he's been in the online space as well too. So he's really helped hundreds of people across the world, from his small little island up in North Queensland, to understand that they don't have to live a life of quiet desperation, thinking, is there something better than this? Or, is the dream that I bought here, that's turned into a nightmare? Can I really get that dream? So he's got a number of courses and programs and workshops, but his main focus is really helping people to plan and achieve their escape route from this. So it's my great pleasure tonight to introduce you to Roy Carter. So Roy, welcome.
Thank you very much. That's quite an introduction. Good to be here. Good to be here. Yes, it was like, I think it was 10 or 11 years ago, I was speaking at World Internet Summit. We met there. So God, a decade has gone by since then. My goodness.
I know, you haven't aged a bit either, have
you?
you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I'm sort of interested. I mean, I know that you lived in the UK, but when I met you, it was in Australia. In fact, on the Gold Coast at the World Internet Summit. And it was not long after I moved over to Australia after the GFC hit. And I was speaking to you just before we came on here. You were one of the people that was instrumental in me realizing that an online business is not a pipe dream. It is a reality, and it can happen because you are living it. But obviously you haven't been online all your life. How did that all come about? What was your background that led you here?
Well, you've sort of pressed the button now, so I'll fire away. I'll tell. I mean, that's what I'm here for really tonight, is to sort of share with people, with your people, that it really, there is a life that is far less stressful and less relentless, and we all know what that feels like. I mean, I basically started my journey as a young man. I joined the Royal Air Force, and I was a rigger. I was one of those guys who climbed the towers and put the aerials up for ground-to-air communications, until one day, after about 3 years, I fell off the tower and injured my back, which meant I was no longer A1 fit to climb towers anymore. So that was my experience in the RAF. I came out, and then I went into sales. And long story short, I ended up working as a sales rep for a division of Dunlop in the UK. Where I lived at the time. And I sort of quickly moved through the ranks. Went from sales rep to regional manager to national sales manager to ultimately general sales manager UK of a division of Dunlop. And I was responsible for 3 divisions. So this is corporate life. I was responsible for 3 divisions, and I grew those divisions from 8 million to just over 10 million in the year that I was general manager. But at the time, this was all flying a desk, and it wasn't what I enjoyed. And I thought to myself, I reached the stage where I think a lot of us do, particularly when you sort of hit I don't know, your 40s or something, you start to think, well, am I really doing what I want to do? And am I in the job that I want to be in? And I thought to myself, there must be more to this, because what I was doing is I lived in Cheshire, a place called Cheshire in the UK, and I was driving down to Birmingham where the Dunlop offices were every day. And that drive would take me 2 hours down there in the mornings and 2 hours drive back at night. So I was working the proverbial sort of 14 hours a day. And I'd come home at night and I'd be eating my dinner on my lap. You know, that can get old very quickly. So I was successful at what I was doing, but I thought there must be more to life than this. So I started to kind of look around and I thought, you know, I want to do something different. And I ended up joining a recruitment agency that was run by two guys. It was a relatively small business. Well, I say small, it was doing about, I think it was doing about 1.5 million when I joined it. I joined them as the CEO. And initially sales manager, then CEO. And I grew that business, again, long story short, I grew that business from that 1.5 million to, I think it was 5 million in the 3 years. And they subsequently sold out to the Japanese. And they both walked away with a few million each, leaving me in the position of now working for the new Japanese owners. Now, which was fine, because I thought at the time that I may well learn, you know, quite a bit from the Japanese business point of view, and I did. However, what they wanted to do is they wanted to change the recruitment agency. We were a food industry recruitment agency, so we were supplying workers to food factories, and on a temporary basis. And they wanted to change it. Their specialization in Japan was digital marketing, and they wanted to change the agency to only dealing with digital marketing companies, which was kind of fine, but they wanted to ditch all the food customers, which we had some pretty big industry food customers. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So I basically, again, long story short, I left and I set up my own recruitment agency. And my biggest client in that recruitment agency was a company called Golden Wonder Crisps in the UK. They were at the time the biggest, here in Australia we call them chips. They were the biggest chip company in the UK. And so I took them on as a client. And the thing was, what I'd done actually is I jumped out of the frying pan into the fire, because I created my own business and I quickly grew that business to 3.2 million turnover, pound sterling, from zero. It's a very, very stressful industry to be in, because what happens is in the food industry is like Golden Wonder, they would work on what is called the just-in-time ordering system. So they would allow the supermarkets to order just in time. And what that meant in reality was that they would call us up and they would say, okay, right, we want 300 people today, and we want 100 on the morning shift, 100 on the afternoon shift, and 100 on the evening shift. Then the next day, they would say, right, we only want 10 on each shift today, which of course was really, really difficult to sort of keep staff in relation to that. Quick slurp. And so it was very stressful. And again, I found myself being at home at night, 9 o'clock at night, and I would be on the phone to my sort of regional managers saying, Golden Wonder just rang up and said that they are short on this shift or that shift, the evening shift. And I'd be trying to eat my dinner at the same time and cook and doing all this. So bottom line, it was extraordinarily stressful, but you know, very profitable as well. So I was kind of living, you know, a nice lifestyle. You know, I had I had the Mercedes Sports, the nice big house in the woods, the yacht, and all the rest of it. But it was extraordinarily stressful. So one day, what happened was, I used to have a house that I'd rented, and then later on bought in a place called Scunthorpe in Northern England. And we used to use that house so that my regional managers could come up and they could come up at the office and stay overnight at the house without having to book into hotels and things. And I used to stay there myself from time to time. So on this one particular evening, as you do when you get a bit older, I needed to get up to use the loo in the middle of the night. And so I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning or something. I got up, and not to put too fine a point of it, I sleep au natural. Too much information, Roy, but that I do. And so I got up and I walked to my door, bedroom door, to open it to go to the toilet. And I suddenly had this crushing pain in my chest. And I fell flat against the door. And I was just on the floor thinking, oh my God, you know, this is it, this is it. And so I shouted out for Nick, who was one of my branch managers who was staying there at the time. He came running down from his bedroom, down the corridor, tried to push the door open. I was against the door. I'd fallen against the door, basically. So he managed to sort of push the door open and saw me lying on the ground there, naked as a jaybird, clutching my chest and in immense pain. So he took one look at me and went to the phone and called the ambulance. And so the ambulance is en route, and there's quite a funny story attached to it, in that Nick came back from calling the ambulance and decided in his infinite wisdom that he couldn't possibly let the ambulance crew see his boss lying there naked on the floor. So he decided to put my jocks on for me. Now, I couldn't have cared less, you know, I could not have cared less, because I was lying there clutching my chest in pain. But he decided he was going to put my jocks on for me, which he did. And I always say, I used to tell the story on stage, and I used to say, greater love hath no man than he puts his mate's jocks on for him. So, yeah, so that was, so what happened then is the ambulance came, took me off to hospital, and it was a bit of a wake-up call. You know, it was a light bulb moment, if you like, because I was lying there in bed in hospital. And what it turned out not to be a heart attack. It turned out to be something called an esophagus spasm, which apparently the layman can be convinced is a heart attack, because the symptoms are exactly the same: crushing pain in the chest, fall to your knees and think you're going to die. And so, again, long story short, I had a really good doctor at the time. And what he did is he said to me, listen, Roy, this has been brought on by stress. And he said, the fact is you're living the typical sort of business owner's life. You are stressed out. Your blood pressure is high. Your cholesterol is high. You're getting up in the morning, grabbing a quick coffee and shooting off to work, having no lunch or a quick bite at your desk, and then eating your dinner on your lap at home. And you're going through all of that. And he said, it's not a case now of, he said, you're lucky this wasn't a heart attack. He said, but I'm telling you, it won't be very long until you actually do have one. It's not if you have a heart attack, it's when you have a heart attack. So that really, really, as I say, he was a very good doctor, and that really struck home with me. So what I did is I made the decision at the time that was it. I was going to have to sort of move out from that. So I basically found all my staff from the different branches. I found them all jobs with what were my competitors at the time, and basically got rid of the business. And that left me in a position of, well, what do I do now? Do I go back and look for another job and sort of get back into the rat race again? Or what do I do? And so really that was my turning point. And what I've done is I had been dabbling with a little bit of, obviously, you know, I was very experienced at marketing then, even more so now, but I was dabbling with some mail order. And I was doing mail order, direct mail, I should say, not mail order, direct mail, and making some money that way. And I moved that into the online scene, and I started selling information products. I invested some money in myself and took several sort of high-end courses and learnt from people who would, already were doing it and being successful. So of course, if you want to sort of replicate what someone's doing, get the best to teach you effectively. And so that's what I did. And I learnt how to create information products and sell them. And so after that, I created a course that taught other people all around the world how to do exactly that, how to create information products and sell them from home online. And that was actually noticed by the guys at the World Internet Summit. And they were impressed with what I was doing and how I was helping people to do this. And so they invited me to speak for the first time ever. At the time, I was living in Cyprus because I'd moved from the UK to Cyprus. And in Cyprus, I was completely doing an online business. And so that's all I was doing now. I was out of working for anyone else and haven't actually worked for anyone else since. And so the guys at the World Internet Summit invited me to speak for them in New Zealand, which actually might be where you first saw me at, Nick, I think, maybe. I think you think it was the Gold Coast. You said it was the Gold Coast, perhaps. But anyway.
I think it was the Gold Coast, but it could have been New Zealand as well, too, because I was involved in internet marketing stuff then as well, too. Yeah.
So I think that it was a bit of a test to see if I'd fly out to New Zealand from Cyprus. So I did that, went out there, and I must have done something right because a lot of people signed up to learn from me, and they invited me back, and ultimately I ended up sort of speaking for them about a dozen times all over the world. So after that, and for me, I have to tell you that speaking on stage was something I did in corporate life, and I hated every minute of it. You know, I would rather stick a biro in my eye than do public speaking. And so despite that, I still sort of, you know, when you step outside your comfort zone, and as I say to people, you know, the best profits for you are often just outside your comfort zone. And so, you know, standing on stage for 1.5 hours talking on stage at the World Internet Summit was something that I didn't like doing, but it was very lucrative and sort of got my face known. And the guys there at the World Internet Summit, they christened me the Easy Cash Projects guy, because I don't like to do or teach anything that is too difficult. I don't like difficult, I like easy. So in all that I do, I always try to search out an easier method of achieving the end result, whether that be selling ebook guides, or whether it be selling courses, whether it be any training that I do. So that sort of brought me to where I am now. Because what we were doing is we moved like 6 months in Cyprus, and we were doing 6 months here on Magnetic Island. And the first time I saw Magnetic Island, I basically fell in love with it and decided that this is where I would like to live. So I ultimately made that happen. You know, it's a case of deciding what you want to do, deciding exactly how you're going to do that, and then making it happen, which is basically what I teach. But what I do now in the main is I run a program called DIAL. That's DYAL, and it stands for Discover Your Alternative Lifestyle. And what I do, what DIAL is, it's a 10-week program, which I created because I wish I had had this exact program way back in corporate life. And way back when I was running my own business, more importantly. Because people tend to think that they are trapped in whatever it is that they're doing. You know, they feel like there's no way that I could possibly change what I'm doing and move to something else, because this is all I know. Now, I remember when I worked for Dunlop in those days, and I was driving up and down the motorway. One day I saw a guy who was driving a truck. And he was driving a truck down the motorway, and I happened to be passing him, and I looked over, and he was in his truck, and he was singing away at the top of his voice, and obviously very, very happy in what he was doing. So I thought to myself, there's a guy who loves what he's doing. And you start to think, well, maybe I could be a truck driver then. I'd be happy then, you know, maybe I'd just get my truck in the morning and drive it off somewhere, come home at night and be happy and fulfilled in what I'm doing. But you then soon realize that truck drivers don't really make that much money. So it's like, you know, you'd go away on holiday, and I'm sure that we've all done this. You know, you go away on holiday somewhere, and you perhaps go away for 2 weeks, and if you run your own business, especially, you spend the first 3 or 4 days wondering what's going on back in the business. You spend the middle part of the holiday actually trying to relax and enjoy yourself. And you spend the last 3 or 4 days of your holiday also wondering what the heck is going on back in your business. So I don't know how many people can relate to that, but that's effectively what I was doing. Yeah, that's effectively what I was doing at the time. And so, again, I just thought, there must be a better way, which is why I ended up doing what I'm doing. So what Dial does, people don't realize that you have to have sort of clarity. It's like nobody knows quite what it is they would like to do. And that's one of the hardest things to decide, because most people never step away from what they're doing. They never give themselves time and step away from what they're doing to actually look at what it is they might like to do that's different and what might fulfill them and actually make them happy and less stressed out. Because we're all too busy earning a living to make any money, as someone more famous than me once said. So we never do it. We spend more time thinking about booking a holiday and looking into the ins and outs of booking a holiday than we ever do stepping back and actually thinking about what we'd like to do with our lives. So it's very, very hard. And I thought the answer was starting my own business at the time. But effectively what I'd done is I'd created a monster. And so if what you do if what you do in running your business is what fulfills you, then fantastic, more power to you. If it's not stressing you out and it's not causing you any sleepless nights or anything like that, then absolutely more power to you. And what you can actually do, if your business isn't actually bringing in enough income, is you can actually do side income projects, which then will actually build onto your income. But so you can still be happy. Or what I've had people do with Dial is a 10-week program, and effectively what we do is we take you on board, and in the first week we talk about getting full clarity about where you are now, and effectively we take you through the program. You know exactly where you are right now. You discover where you actually truly want to be, and then you make a plan to get there. And so that's 10 sort of weekly modules. But in week 3 alone, see, people think it's all about the money. It's not all about the money. What it's about is it's about being happy and fulfilled. So in week 3 alone, what I do is I give people who are in the DAR program, I give them more income generating projects that they can do both online and off, that will generate an income for them, more than they can ever need. So they get access to that in week 3 alone. But there are 10 modules, and the reason there are 10 modules is because it's not all about the money. It's about being happy and fulfilled. In effect, the money, I don't want to be sort of blasé about it, but the money is actually the easy bit. It's not, people sort of think, okay, so what am I going to do to make the money? And what you do if you do that is you're starting from the wrong point. You need to be thinking, what do I really want to be doing? What would fulfill me and make me happy? Now, for some people who've joined the program, the DIAL program, for some people that might mean getting another job, which is in something that they actually truly like doing, and then having income generating projects on the side. So they end up making more money than they were before, but now they're in a job that fulfills them. For other people, it's like, again, when you go away on holiday, sometimes you can think to yourself, I don't know whether any of you have ever done this, hands up if you have, but sort of going away on holiday, and while you're there thinking, I absolutely love it here. I could live here. I could really live here. And make it a reality. And you think to yourself, oh, I don't know, maybe I could run a little cafe or a bar or something. And you sort of daydream about that. But when you get back home, you forget all about it because you're too busy back involved in your business or your job or whatever. So you kind of forget all about that. So looking at how you make the money, as I say, those are the easy bits. The difficult bit is truly deciding what it is that would fulfill you, make you less stressed and make you happy. Because my life now is I live on Magnetic Island, as you've mentioned. If I compare my life now to what it was before, We are universes apart. And there is absolutely no need in this day and age to be doing work that makes you unhappy, depressed, or doesn't fulfill you, or doesn't make you enough money. There's no need at all in this day and age to do that. So, as I say, if I look at my life now, it's completely and utterly different. I don't have any alarm. I don't set an alarm. I wake up in the morning when I need to wake up. In the afternoon, I'll sometimes go to half an hour's sleep in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. I sometimes hit a wall, and all I'm doing is following my body clock. But I can do that. You know, I can take a nap in the afternoon for an hour and come back, and I'm completely ready to go again. And my wife calls them and me having a nana nap. She calls it having a nana nap, which I do in the afternoon. But I wake up from that, I'm energized again, I'm happy. And all I'm doing is following my body clock. But I'm able to do that because I have projects that mean that I've got income coming in, on virtual autopilot. There's no such thing as autopilot, and things do take work to set up, obviously. But you reach the point where what I do is I still do guides and ebooks and things like that, which is nicely profitable. And so you'll get you'll wake up in the morning, you'll get notification of payment received, notification of payment received. And while you're asleep, you've been making money, which is, what people typically think of as the internet lifestyle. And also I've got courses that bring me in recurring income, and I've got courses that bring me in high ticket income as well. So all of that is secondary to what it is that you actually want to do with your life. To sit down and take the time out to step away. And my wife and I still do this, Lynn and I still do this to this day. We've just got back from a 9 days in Port Douglas, where we go twice a year, and we'll sort of go there, and what we'll do is we'll look at what we're doing to bring in our income and whether we're happy still in doing what we're doing. And if there's anything we're doing that we've slipped into, which is sometimes easy to do, if we've slipped into something that's making us less than happy, then when we get back, we'll remove that. We'll take steps to remove that from our lives, and we won't do it anymore. Because life is way too short to be doing stuff that you don't enjoy. And what happens, I think, is you reach a pivot point in your life, and you reach the point where you sort of know it is now or never. If I don't change now, it's likely that I never will. So. And again, what people don't realize is you do have a choice. It's always about choice. So you have the choice to say, right, I've reached a point now where I'm no longer going to put up with this. I'm not going to live a life where I'm going to work every day and being unfulfilled, or not making enough money, or being unhappy. So you make the choice that I'm going to change that. And if you don't do it now, it will never happen. Or you can make a choice that says, no, I'm going to stay where I am. I have to stay where I am because that's what's bringing the bread and butter in right now. And so I'm stuck and I can't get out of it. Now, every choice we make has consequences. And the result of making the first choice is that you decide to go on a different adventure and start towards. No one's suggesting that you jump out of what you're doing and immediately start tomorrow doing something else and bin everything. That's not the way it works. But what you do is you formulate a plan which says, at least I know now that I am actually taking steps towards removing myself from where I'm at now to creating additional income projects to move towards where I want to be. And I know where I want to be because I've made a plan to get there. And so that's what Dial is all about. That's what the Dial program is all about. And I did say to you, Nick, when we were kind of off air at the beginning, quick slurp again, that what I'll do for your guys, I have a book, which you'll now know why the book is called what it's called. And the book is called Laying Naked on the Floor When My Colleague Walked In. I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that? It's Discover Why This Event Led Me to Now Living on a Tiny but Very Beautiful Tropical Island. Now that's for sale on Amazon in paperback format, but your guys can get it free of charge the PDF version by going to dialprogram.com, which is DYAL, program spelt the American way, PROGRAM, dialprogram.com. And you can grab a free copy of the book there. And what that does, it's a short read, but if you get some insights from it and you feel like you resonate with that, then at the end of the book, there's a link there where you can go and actually watch a video which will tell you more about how the Dial program works and kind of what it can do for you. And then, that's up to you. That's the decision you make at that point. If it resonates with you, fine. If not, you've had hopefully an enjoyable read. So that's effectively my journey and where I am now. And Dial is really what I see as my legacy project. Dial is me helping people, and I've got a lot of stories I could share with you. We probably haven't got the time for that, in terms of people who've come through the program, thought that they could never change, and now have, of all ages as well. I think my oldest client was 82 or something. But you get people who I call them start againers, because that's what I was. I was a start againer. So that's where I am now, and happily ensconced on a little island and enjoying life. And the money comes in, not all on autopilot, because you still do have to do things to upkeep it. And that's it. That's my story. So if anyone's got any questions at all, I'm happy to answer them, Nick.
Excellent. I was going to ask you a question, Roy, and that's and you touched on it as well too, in that a lot of people, probably no one here on this call here, but a lot of people do things because it's almost like that's the way they've always done it, and they can't see any alternatives. And I hear it in some of the work that I do. People, particularly in the online space, they say things like, "Oh, I'm not very techie," or computer's not really friendly towards me, look, I really don't understand this sort of thing. What's your response to that? Or, how do people get over some of those mental hurdles, I guess they are?
Okay, well, there's probably not too many people who are less techie than I am when it comes to sort of online stuff. However, think of it this way. Anyone who thinks like that, you need to think of it this way. You can be, as a friend of mine always says, you can be the general of the army instead of the soldier in the trenches. So it doesn't have to be you that does the work. Now, I teach that within the Dial program, and I teach it in other courses as well. But the point to remember is that it doesn't have to be you that does the work. You should write that down, because that is the crux of what has made me an awful lot of money. And I'll give you a little story about that. When I was in the UK, at that place I mentioned before, at that property I had before, where my branch managers used to come and stay over, one day it was midwinter there, the snow outside, and the central heating boiler decided to pack up. So it was freezing and we needed someone to urgently come in and replace that boiler. So I rang round to try and find some plumber that would come out and actually do it and give me a quote to do the job. And I rang about 5 or 6 people, 5 or 6 plumbers, 4 of which never turned up. The guy that did turn up was an Indian guy, a Sikh guy in a turban. And he arrived at the door with this other guy, and he said, "Would you mind if we came in and have a look, and what the issue is?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. Thankfully, you've turned up." So again, long story short, he came in, and as he went away, he said, "Listen, I'll get back to you this evening with a quote." And I said, "Well, tomorrow morning's fine or whatever." But he said, no, I'll be back to you this evening with a quote. And he came back as good as his word that evening and gave me a quote for the work and got the job. And they commenced, doing that job the next day, and the boiler was fitted. So very speedy thing. What I learned from speaking to this guy was that it wasn't him that had a boiler business. He wasn't the plumber. He just knew a man who was. And so what he was very cleverly doing was he was putting adverts up all over the place for different services, one of which was plumbing, another was central heating, another one was from memory greenhouse installation, greenhouse sale and installation. And he had all these 5 or 6 different businesses that he was running, didn't know a damn thing about any of them, but he knew a man who did. And so what he was doing was he was getting the leads, and then he had these different people, tradies, who are actually doing the job for him. And he just said to them, listen, if I get the leads, he rang them up. It's very, very simple. He rang them up and said, listen, if I get the leads, will you give me 12.5%, 10 to 12.5% of whatever business I bring in? Because I've got more business than I can cope with, and sometimes I have to pass that on to outsiders. So would you be, and of course, these people said yes. And so without being an expert or involved in any way in any of those businesses, all he did was use other people's knowledge and other people's efforts and made himself a very, very nice income. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be you that does the work. And so that's a long-winded answer, a way of answering your question, Nick, which was, if somebody's sort of worried about tech or anything else like that, there is always someone else out there who will sort that out for you. Not only that, if you want to learn it, and that's not always the right thing to do, there is always someone who will teach it to you as well. So you can do one of 2 things. You can pay someone and invest in yourself. It's, money that you invest in yourself is the wisest investment you'll ever make. All right. So I have people who create things for me now. I have people who handle the tech side for me if I either A, can't do it or don't want to do it. So you can decide, do you want to learn it or do you just want the job done? And so think of it that way. Don't think I can't do this. Don't look for reasons why you can't do things. Look for reasons why you can, because there's always someone else who can do that job for you. Hopefully that answers that question.
So along the way, Roy, I would imagine that you haven't got everything right. And there have probably been some mistakes and some things that you've done. You think, what did I do that for?
Yeah.
But yet here you are still on Magnetic Island. You're still making money, and you don't have an alarm clock that goes off. But what are some of the mistakes that you've made that you think people can avoid?
I think the first mistake I made was going into business by myself now. Yeah, that's probably not what some people want to hear, but for me it was a mistake. It's not a mistake for everybody. I am in business now. I coach and mentor people, and I do some business consulting as well. I take on private business clients and help them grow their business. So 50% or 100% increase in profits, not turnover, profits, in the space of a year. So I take on private clients and do that for them and help them do that. Which I thoroughly enjoy. But mistakes-wise, it was going into the wrong business. What it was just leaping too quickly into something when I didn't really have a plan. So, when the business was sold to the Japanese, the other guy's business was sold to the Japanese, I immediately said, okay, well, okay, let's do this. And I immediately started a business. Now, it was very successful and everything else, but it's eventually what put me on the ground clutching my chest because it was so stressful. So what I hadn't done is I hadn't stepped back and thought truly and properly and taken time out from everything just to sit and think clearly about what kind of thing would fulfill me. What do I actually enjoy doing? What do I get the most pleasure out of, actually and truly? And it's hard for people to decide that, and it's hard to do it on your own, which is why I created the course. But so I think the biggest mistake was just leaping too quickly into something that I then found myself back in the rat race because I'd created a monster. Other things that I've done, not every project you create will work, but it doesn't have to. If you get one project out of 5 that is a gusher, for you and brings in the money, that more than compensates for any that don't actually work, you know. But what you do over time is, you know, I've learned, you know, I've been in, I think you mentioned in your email to people that I've been in the business, you know, online business for 10 years. I've actually been in the online business for over 20 years now. So, you know, a very, very long time. So I know what works, I know what doesn't work. And I've had the hard knocks so that, you know, people that I teach don't have to. And that goes back to what I was saying, really, you know, whether it's me or whether it's someone else, effectively, you know, learn from someone who's done time in the trenches and knows what they're talking about. It's like the business consulting side of things. If you're going to get a business consultant to come in and advise you on how to grow your profits and your business in ways that most of your competitors won't know, make sure you're dealing with somebody who's actually been in the trenches and run their own damn business, you know, and found out exactly how hard it is. Because they'll know how you feel and what you're talking about and the stresses and strains of doing that. And they'll also hopefully know what works if they've grown a successful business, you know. So yeah, we all make mistakes. That's part of the nature of everything that we do. But mistakes aren't necessarily what you focus on. You learn from them and move on, you know, as we all do, I think.
Mm. So in terms of people that you work with, like you've had a great many people go through your programs. Is there anyone that sort of, or any sort of person that stands out, like from the sense that they were really in a position where they had not a lot in terms of being able to start with anything, but have really been you know, successful with it, and you know, in terms of that, what is it they've done that has really created that success for them?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I could give you several stories, but if you go online and you type in Roy Carter internet marketing testimonials or something, then you'll find people giving me testimonials. One of the guys was a guy who was working out at the mines, and what he did is he started his own landscaping business. Just a normal landscaping business, and that grew to the point where he won a contract with one of the mines out here in Australia. And he was working out at the mines all the time and making, you know, seriously good money. And he had a guy working for him doing the sort of day-to-day landscaping business other than the mine business. And then he and his wife had a baby. And so he found that he was spending so much time away that he wasn't getting to see his young baby. And so that's when he approached me and said, you know, can we have a conversation about what we can do about this? What might be right for me? Which is what we did. And so I set him off down a pathway of marketing for a specific type of business in a specific type of way. And it was video marketing related. And taught him how to win business, how to create the videos, how to win business like that, and how to go about it differently than maybe anyone else was doing, or that very few knew how to do. So what he did is he started to get clients for his video marketing business, to the point where I think now, from memory, in a testimonial you might see online, you might say something different, but I think he made something like $50,000 in his first 6 months or something. And then he went on to make a lot more than that, I think 100,000 plus, etc., in the first year. But what this allowed him to do, what he ultimately did then, is he stopped doing the mine business, ultimately, I believe, but he farmed off he actually sold the landscaping business to the guy who was working for him. The part that wasn't the mine related stuff, you know, and he moved to the point. Then he came over and had a weekend with me on the island, and we talked about like what he might do next and things like that. And he did a very nice testimonial for me, a video testimonial for me about how it worked for him. So that's one story. What else oh yeah, so I had a guy who came over from the UK. His testimonial is also online. He created a video testimonial for me. What he did he was running, well, he actually came over here to spend a weekend learning about, I think from memory, it was how to create his own membership site, or how to create his own course, I think it was actually. And very nice guy called Brian. And so he'd flown over from the UK to spend the weekend with me here at our place on the island. And what he'd done is he'd gone to the airport, and because he was so mad busy with the business he was running at the time, he wasn't busy, he was being a busy idiot, really, is what he was actually doing. So what he'd done is he'd arrived at the airport a day late, and he missed his flight. His flight was actually the day before. So he then had a decision to make: either turn around and just go straight back home and call everything quits. He'd already paid me for the weekend that he was coming over for me, and this was a one-to-one, so it wasn't cheap. But he decided, no, I've said I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. So he rebooked another flight, got on it, and came over here. He then had to change like his, accommodation and everything else. So a lot of trouble he went to come over here. And so we spent some time, in the first day. It was only like a 2-day thing. And we spent the first day going through, teaching him how to create a course and sell it online, etc. Then in the lunch break, I asked him about what he did in his business. And what he was doing is he had a furniture and bedding business. And he had like what was really a big sort of hangar where people would come in and buy almost at wholesale prices. They would buy the beds or suites and furniture and stuff like this. But business was really, really poor. And he was sat there all day and working all the hours God sends, trying to get new business into his store. And what had happened is a big department store, one of the biggest in the UK, had opened up round the corner from him. And it pretty much destroyed his business. So he spent like, a good half hour telling me how bad things were and why things weren't working and the reasons why they weren't working and everything else. So he spent half an hour telling me what was wrong and why he wasn't able to sell much and why he was working all the hours God sends. And I said, okay. And I was just interested. This wasn't part of what he came over for. I was just interested. So I said, well, okay, tell me a little bit about where your business is situated and a bit more about it. So turns out he had this business that was a hangar. It was in virtually a field, and the field around the area around the hangar was all stones and gravel. And people drove in and parked there and came in to look at beds and suites and things like that. But as I say, with this new department store opening up, his business was pretty much ruined overnight, and he was desperate, which is why he was looking at creating online courses and things. So I said to him, well, why don't we just think of it a little bit differently? Why don't we think in terms of what assets you do have in your business rather than the assets you don't have? So the assets that you've got really, your business is like, you're not selling stuff at all. But the assets you do have is you've got this bloody big hangar and you've got the area around it. So why don't you bin the bed business and the furniture business completely, where you're spending all the hours God sends, and inside that hangar, create storage units. And inside the hangar, create, wide storage units and things like that, and charge people for renting out storage units. And in the outside area, which is also an asset that you're currently just using for car parking, use that for people to pay you to store their caravans there and their boats there, because it's a big area around the thing. I said, then you've basically killed two birds with one stone. You've changed your business entirely. Your business is no longer causing you the stress it was and having to be there, 14 hours a bloody day. What you're doing is you're gaining almost passive income from people who are paying you to rent the storage units and the area outside to park their boats and business. Exactly what he did. Went back, changed his business entirely. He didn't come over to learn that, but he did learn how to do courses, but he went back and changed his business entirely. So that's a success story, if you like. a bit
So
of an
that's
unusual
the unexpected things that, or the stuff that's right in front of our nose that we never see, that someone else can see it quite so obviously.
That's right. Sometimes you're too close to the wood from the, you can't see the wood for the trees because you're in the business day to day, running the business, and all you can think of are the problems. You can't see the assets, and you can't see, you're looking for reasons why you can't do things, and all the woe is me, it's terrible, and what the hell am I going to do? And because of that, as I said before, you haven't stepped back and given yourself the relaxed time. That's what happens when you first start to make income online, is it gives you the time to actually step back and have ideas. And what a lot of the people inside the Dial program have told me is that for the first time, they've started to see opportunities all around them because they're not so stressed about bloody surviving. They've started to see opportunities everywhere. And that's what happens, because I teach people how to look at things differently and how to think about things differently. I get a lot of comments about, for the first time, I'm getting clear on things, so clarity. I'm seeing opportunities everywhere, because opportunities are everywhere. There are more opportunities out there than you can shake a stick at. I tell a particular story inside the Dial program, which is an offline thing, which I can't share here because it's inside the program. But it's like it was an opportunity that came to me from a conversation that I overheard in a bar. I didn't do anything. I ended up making €1,000 because I was living in Cyprus at the time. But just by thinking outside the square a little bit. And so, people say, okay, having access to your brain is worth, what I'm paying for the program 10 times over. But they end up thinking themselves, it's them doing it in the end, because they end up thinking differently and starting to see opportunities, sometimes for their business that they're still in, and sometimes for stepping outside that business to do side projects.
So for those of us that are in business, I think, how many people here are in business for themselves? Just pop your hands up or give us a, yep. So I think most of us are here in business ourselves. How many here got into business because it was something you were particularly passionate about? I don't know. Yep. So some of us. How many of us got into business because they couldn't think of anything else to do? And who got into business because of desperation? That was me when I first got over here to Australia.
And who got into business to make money?
Well, that's the other big thing. Yeah. Hands up for that. So in terms of business, well, I think maybe if we just ask one other question is, who here is in a business that feels like they've bought themselves a job? So they're working long hours and it's no different to working to anyone else. Excellent. Okay. Who here is doing what they absolutely love and are 100% passionate about? And who wants to make some more money doing that sort of thing? So one of the things, Roy, is that I do come across a lot of people that really enjoy what they do. They're in business. They're passionate about what they do. Yeah. In fact, I heard an interview with well, this is secondhand, with a billionaire who said that anyone who's in business because they're passionate about what they do are losers. What they have to be is obsessed about what they do. And so it was an interesting take on it. And the friend of mine that was at this said, look, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but that was his path to being a billionaire, is to be obsessed, not just passionate. Yeah. But how much does, first of all, passion play in helping you to develop your business and income online, and how much does it hinder you?
That's an extraordinarily very good question. You can be, let me put it this way. As I said before, it doesn't have to be you that does the work, right? And it also doesn't have to be you that is knowledgeable or enjoys that niche, okay? So, you might be very, very interested in breeding two-headed giraffes, but that doesn't mean to say there's a market for it. And so, you can't always do what you're passionate about, or your passion may not always be the thing that can bring you a decent income. But then it comes back to where your priorities are. If you're not that bothered about the income side of things, and you're more passionate about the business itself, you know, and helping people, and you are making sufficient money for you to have a lovely, enjoyable life, then great, you know, fantastic. If you've got no problems and you're happy doing that, then fantastic. You know, for me, I realized that, well, I realized I didn't want to work for anyone else, which is probably like most of us here, you know, didn't want to work for somebody else and rather work for yourself. But I also realized that the way I like earning my money, the thing is, what you do is you stop thinking about the money side of things, and you start thinking about how you can help people. And when you start thinking about how you can help people, the money flows naturally. You know, but it doesn't mean to say that you have to stay in one area to do that. You know, it's a good idea not to be all over the bloody place and have, like, you know, 115 different projects, because then none of them get done properly. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't be in 3 or 4 projects that make you, you know, a decent amount of money. And it doesn't mean to say that you can't then bin one and test another, and always have one that you're testing. And so that's the way you find the gold, you know. But again, it doesn't have to be you that creates the product. I actually create probably 90% of my products myself, but things like some of the ebooks, you know, like kidney failure in dogs and things like that, you know, that's something that I know nothing about, but I know a person who does, and I got them to write the guide and paid them for doing that. And I now sell that guide, you know, so that's helping people. So yeah, you know, good question. You don't have to be passionate about, the answer is you don't have to be passionate in order to make money about anything, because it doesn't have to be you that does the work. But B, if you are passionate, and the codicil is that it is also fulfilling you and making you happy and making you enough money, then fine. Because if what you're doing makes you happy and fulfilled, and you leap out of bed every morning looking forward to doing it, but it's not making you enough money, then you've only got one problem. And that is that you need help developing the profit side of your business. But you're in the right business for you because it's making you happy. So that's the only problem you need to fix. And then, you know, you go out and you get help to fix that problem. So, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Anyone got any questions or comments there? Just unmute and come and ask.
I do.
Selena.
Selena. Hi, Selena.
Hi. What's your idea on niching? Everybody seems quite keen on the idea of niching, and what would you say about that? Or would you just say, just go for everything, whatever interests you, or what?
No, a good question again. No, I wouldn't say go for everything that interests you, because like I say, you might be interested in breeding 2-headed giraffes, but it will never make you any money because the market isn't big enough. So when you're thinking in terms of what niche to go into, yes, I mean, always, by all means, start at what interests you, you know, what your interest is. But the way to start is to think, who is the audience that I would like to help? That's the way to start thinking about it, because that will lead you towards a niche. And, you know, it's not something you can just say, well, ask that question to yourself and then immediately have an answer. You do have to think about it. You know, it's worth spending a good few days sort of thinking about that and just jotting down, brainstorming some ideas. But who is the audience that I would most like to help? Who is the audience that I would get most fulfillment out of helping? So for me, with the Dial program, Discover Your Alternative Lifestyle, is exactly that. I could have called it Design Your Alternative Lifestyle, because what I'm doing, the audience that I'm helping is the audience who have reached a point where they think, I need to change and it's now or never. And they might be managers in a job that they're just over. They've maybe seen somebody promoted above them and they're sick of it, etc. Or they might be people who are running the business and they need a side income to make more profit, or they're not enjoying the business or whatever. So that's my audience. Now, if you start to think about, instead of the money and anything else, just think about who are the people, who's the audience I'd love to help, and I'd get a great deal of fulfillment out of helping. That will lead you down a path, and then you'll end up at an overall niche. Now, that overall niche then can be broken down further. So I had a business consulting client who was, what was she doing? She was a life coach, and she loved doing it, but she wasn't making a great deal of money out of it. She didn't know how to market herself properly and get new clients or whatever, but she was a life coach. When she became a client of mine, a business consulting client of mine, what we looked at was some of the successes that she'd had in the past. And one of the successes she's had, so she was being a life coach to anyone who would want a life coach. And I said, you need to specialize, because the minute you start to specialize, the audience you're speaking to understands that you're talking directly to them, okay, and not to everybody. And so if there's a life coach, in her case, I asked her, who was like, give me a success story. So she said she'd helped this lady solicitor who had just started working in a new branch of solicitors, and she'd started working there. She was a junior solicitor, and she was, instead of doing the job she was employed to do, they had her making the tea, they had her running errands and doing stuff like this, and she was very, very unhappy, qualified but unhappy. And they just said to her, her bosses just said to her, that's what everyone has to do, but strangely the new guys weren't doing that. It was just her, so she was very unhappy and insulted and all the rest of it. So what my client did is she helped her and coached her through having the confidence to ultimately start her own practice. Now she was like a junior solicitor, but she helped her how to start her own practice. I said, that's great, that's fabulous. Okay, so now let's start you off being the life coach to solicitors. But let's not just do that. Let's make you the life coach to female solicitors who've recently started in a new job, because that's your target audience. So now she's when we're talking about niching, now she's, Selena, she's now laser targeted to her direct audience. And what that does is it makes the whole thing easier. Everything becomes easier from that point. So it doesn't become difficult anymore to get new clients, because your marketing becomes much, much easier. You're not trying to be all things to all people. You're trying to be a specialist in the target audience that you're dealing with. And so you've arrived at not only an overall niche, but a laser targeted niche. And so you can now help a specific audience who, when you talk to them, they think, oh, this woman's a life coach. There are all these life coaches that I know I need help with, but only she specializes in solicitors. And guess what? Only she specializes in female solicitors. That's who she helps. And I'm one of those. I want her help. I don't want any of the others. So it makes everything easier. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Excellent. Probably got time for one more question. If anyone's got another question, burning question there.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Roy. Really enjoyed hearing your story today. My question is around what automation tools do you use, or what online tools for your programs?
I keep everything really, really simple. I use Lead Pages to create my pages. I use Samcart just very recently now. And Samcart, again, allows you to build pages, but it also allows you to have the order form. It allows you to do order bumps. So, like, for example, recently I've started selling a book. I've started selling the Dial book, actually, via Samcart as well as Amazon. And so, but what it's allowed me to do is to offer the audio version of the book as an order bump, so that if somebody orders the book, they then don't get taken straight away to pay. They effectively are offered would you like the audio version of the book as well? And so that, makes advertising cheaper, advertising the book cheaper, because you're making more per sale. So Samcart, I use Aweber I have used GetResponse and Aweber for autoresponders. but I now only use Aweber for that. What else do I use? I use, let me just have a look at my whiteboard here. I use Wistia to host my videos, my video training videos and everything else, course videos. I use them for my dial videos as well. They're much more secure. I was taught that lesson, you know, Nick asked before about making mistakes. And one of the mistakes I made was hosting, I still do host some unimportant sort of videos on YouTube. But I made a mistake of losing a YouTube channel where I had a pile of information, and arbitrarily, for some reason, I don't know what happened, but that was a silly mistake, as a, you know, a stupid mistake. So that's why I went into Wistia. Now Wistia cost me a fair amount because it's per view and everything else, you know, but it's well worth it for the security. And then I have a program that I'm just trying to see if it's on my whiteboard or not. I have a program that Value Add-on. It's called Value Add-on. And I use that for delivery of one of my courses, in fact, 2 of my courses. And it's very intuitive and easy to use and very cheap. It's about $47 a month or something. And it allows you to put, you know, video, and they host everything as well. So you can put videos inside there and train people how to do stuff. And it's really cheap and very easy and intuitive to use. So yeah, there's some of the main tools that I use.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
There's an app I haven't come across before, so thanks, Roy.
Yeah. You're talking about Value Add-on.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before, so yeah, that looks really interesting. So
yeah, it's very cheap, you know, very cheap. Yeah, does the job.
Yeah. Excellent. And that's really good too, because you know, you don't need a full-blown website and have to sort of pay a developer and whatever to get something all done. You can get stuff up and done really quickly. And at the end of the day, it's about the result and the money coming in, rather than you know, having the best looking website out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got some very simple looking websites. I've got some nice looking websites. I think I paid one guy once ever to create a website for me. And I paid way back in the day, I paid him £700 to create a website for me. It was a nice site, you know, nothing wrong with that. But then, you know, tools started to come along that makes it so easy and quick to create, like Lead Pages, amazing, you know. You can create some incredible pages with that, even Samcar. And there are so many tools now that make, I mean, when I first started, I didn't know how to put a video online. I struggled to learn for ages. Instead of doing what the sensible thing would be to do is, I need this video putting online. Can you do it for me? I'll pay you. and saving myself, like, you know, days and days of angst trying to get my head around this. And of course, nowadays it's just super simple. Everything's super simple. You know, there's no reason, as I say, you know, maybe to end things, there's no reason in this day and age why you ever have to do stuff that makes you unhappy in order to earn an income. And there's no reason why you need to have the knowledge to do stuff yourself, because you can be the, you know, the general of the army rather than the soldier in the trenches. I have a particular thing. I said I'll end and then carry on talking. I have something called entrepreneurialoutsourcing.com, where I teach people in there to do projects that that are online and offline projects. And some of them, like, you'd never think about as just how easy it can be to, you know, just to have projects that are working on the side and bringing you in a side income. So what it does is it frees you up, really. I mean, it just frees you up to have a life that you can enjoy. Someone said to me the other day, a friend of mine, a supposed friend of mine, said to me the other day, "How old are you now, Roy?" I think he's 67. He said, "How old are you now, Roy?" And I said, "I'm 65 now. I don't feel it, but I'm 65. And he said, he took his glasses off and he said, "In 15 years, you'll be 80. And I said, "You bastard," because it really pulled me up short. And I thought, Christ, in 15 years, I'm going to be 80. You know, life's too short to mess about doing stuff where you're unhappy. Don't do it, you know. So, yeah, there you go.
So, yeah. I don't even want to think what's going to happen
No,
in 15 years. From
I
there. It's
know,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel a lot younger than
So do I.
I
Oh my
really want to
God.
be. It sounds like I've broken my rule. I've gone over time, but I've just got to ask this as well.
Okay.
It sounds like that you don't have just one thing that makes you money. You've got multiple things, and some of them bring you in like little chunks of money here and there, sort of thing. Others bring you in more money. But you know, you're not reliant on one particular thing. And if you get to 80, well, when you get to 80, I should say,
Yeah.
then
Too
then
much
you,
of this and it might go wrong.
but you know, you've got these sort of, I suppose, micro income sources as whatever that will just keep running, sort of, you know, regardless.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to worry. Is it, I mean, have I got that right?
Yeah, no, largely you have, yeah, because you know what tends to happen is you know, like I'll wake up in the morning and sometimes you know, like there'll be money in my PayPal account or Stripe account, and I'll say, what the heck's that for? I've no idea what that's for. And it just arrives because it's something you've done, you know, a couple of years ago or something. You don't remember, and you know it comes in. But largely, as I say, these days, Dial is my bait. It's two things really. You know, because the courses like the one I've just mentioned, you know, entrepreneur and outsourcing, that runs by itself because I've already got like 1.5 years worth of projects in there, which are delivered to people monthly, and they love it. So that just runs itself effectively. All I've got to do is put people in at the front end of the funnel, and they go through, you know, the autoresponder messages that you know, attract them to buy or not buy. Yeah, so there's that. But I mean, my two main babies now are Dial, which is my legacy that I'll leave behind, is helping people escape to do something they love. And the other one is that I get a lot of enjoyment out of with selected people is, you know, helping them to, so the business consulting side of things, where I help them to, you know, heavily increase their profits. I get a great deal of pleasure out of that. So I do it because it gives me a great deal of pleasure, you know.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, thank you very much, Roy, for coming on tonight. As I said at the very beginning, you were one of the people that when I arrived in Australia sort of taught me that, you know, being online 100% is possible. And that's what really got me, you know, sitting at my local cafe with a little laptop computer into affiliate marketing, thinking I'm going to make this happen. And I have to say, it was way more work and way harder than I thought it was. But out of it all, and I think it was really out of it all that, you know, I learned to do some things that really did create my online business. So even though affiliate marketing doesn't make up a substantial amount of my business, it was the thing that got me started to really sort of think about how to, you know, what can I do online? So these days, I know that I can launch a course or a program before I built it, and you know, and sell it out and then build it as I go. And I can, you know, I've got enough knowledge. I think one of the mistakes I made was I've got too much knowledge. So I decided I needed to know everything before I could do everything. So I learned how to build websites. I learned how to do, you know, sort of set up Google Analytics and Webmaster Tools and all that. So I know all of this useless information that I can pay someone else to do. And you know, it really had been so quite a while into it, and I think I actually don't need to know all this stuff. I just need to know someone who knows how to do this sort of stuff. So that comment of yours, I think, really resonated, you know, really well with me. And I'm 56 now, Roy, so I'm snapping on your heels there.
Yeah, just a mere baby.
Yeah. And you know, but you know, you get to this point in life where you sort of think, well, you know, I can't be working all my life. I've got to be looking at sort of what are some things that I can do to really sort of create, you know, we call it passive income, but as we know, passive income always requires a bit of work to get it there and set it up or whatever. But, you know, it's about recurring income that you can it just keeps, you know, coming through again and again and again. And
when you reach the point, when you reach the point where, you don't set the alarm clock, and you know, like if I decide I don't want to work tomorrow, Lynn and I'll go off to the beach, or we'll go fishing, or like I bought a kayak which only she uses because I get seasick on a duck pond, you know. So we just go and do stuff that we enjoy, because that's what life should be about. You should be able to stop. If you can't step away from your business for a day or longer, hopefully, but if you can't step away from your business from a day and go and enjoy life, then you're not doing it right, you know.
Mm-hmm. So really what you're saying is that you're controlling your business, not your clients controlling your business.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, well, look, thanks again, Roy. I know that it's this here is cutting into your evening time, but I'm glad to see that you are enjoying your evening time with your glass of red wine as well too. So this is a relaxed discussion, and really good to reconnect with you today like this. Because you're someone that I've watched online for a long time, and you've consistently just been doing the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but you've consistently been there. And when I say the same thing, you've got the lifestyle you've created, you've set your goals, you're achieving it, and you're helping other people to do it. And you're truly an inspiration. And one of the reasons why you are an inspiration is that you're not a web developer. You're not a web designer or anything like that. You're very non-techy, and but yet you've created a lifestyle that you enjoy, that you love, and that really sort of serves you. So for me, that's an inspiration.
Thank you very, very much. And if people want to go to dialprogram.com and grab the book with my compliments, you can do. That will be free there.
Excellent. So I've just dropped that link back into chat. So this show here, it will be up on YouTube tomorrow. So tomorrow afternoon, it'll be up on the SmashGo YouTube channel. So feel free to go and view it again, or share it out to other people as well that you think might benefit from this as well. And remember, if you're not a member of Business Owners Smashing Online Facebook group, go and join that now, because that's where we announce all of our events and everything that's in there, and that's where we have some of the discussions. If you've got any comments or discussion from this evening, or anything you'd like to raise, chat about, or whatever, then put that into Business Owners Smashing It Online as well too. But apart from that, again, thanks, Roy, for joining us tonight. Thanks to Lynn for allowing you sort of in here as well tonight as well too. And for everyone that's here, always a pleasure having you here tonight, and go and have a sensational week. And we'll see you next time.